Please unmute yourself if you wish to do so. Turn on your camera. Please speak only to the agenda item being discussed. And after testifying, please mute yourself. You will then be returned to attendee. Any ambient noises around you? Okay, members, joining us today, I think, is our CEO. Is it Summer? Is it Summer? Yes, supporting us, staff on staff is Trustee. It's Crane Aquina and Ms. Winahan. And also joining us is our CEO, our Pohana Summer. And so I will now call on Summer to introduce the numerous support staff joining us this morning. Summer? Yes, they should be. Well, mine is. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Mahalo for having us. Joining me today are the Chief Financial Officer, Dinan Patel, our Investment Director, Ryan Lee, our Budget Chief, Grace Chen, our Associate General Counsel, Rosella Gog, our Grants Manager, Chantel Belay, Director of Communications, Bill Brennan, Director of Community Engagement. Oh, got it. So I'm mistaken, and that actually concludes those joining us from the administration to support this meeting. Mahalo.
Couple of minutes. So I'm going to move that we approve. Has anyone signed up to testify on the minutes of June 24th, 2026?
No testifiers, Chair.
Okay, with that, are there any changes to the minutes of June 24th? If there are not, can I get a roll call vote for their approval? Okay.
Trustee Ahuna. Yes. Trustee Akaka. Trustee Aquina. Aye. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galataria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele. Aye. Trustee Lindsay. Aye. Trustee Souza. Aye. Chair Waihe'e. Yes. 9 yes votes.
Trustee Aquina. Okay, thank you. Members, we're moving on to new business. Action item BF 2615. Has anyone signed up to testify on this? So Jermaine Myers has, so I will call Jermaine Myers to the table. Yes, we are.
Test. Oh, thank you. Aloha, Honorable Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I am an OHA beneficiary and a long-time continued investment in capital improvement projects that benefit Native Hawaiian communities throughout our islands. My testimony today is not in opposition to these grants. Rather, I respectfully ask for clarification regarding the selection process to help strengthen public confidence in OHA's grant making. The packet states that these awards are being funded with approximately $2.55 million in unused fiscal year 26 capital improvement project funds. I respectfully ask, where did these unused funds originate? Were they the result of projects completed under budget, canceled projects, expired awards, or projects that were unable to move forward? I also have questions regarding the recommended award to the Big Island Substance Abuse Council. The Big Island, yeah, okay. The evaluation materials indicate that 2 of the 3 evaluators marked "Do Not Award," and some applicants received higher overall evaluation scores but were not recommended for funding. I'm not suggesting that the Big Island Substance Abuse Council is unworthy of support. Rather, I respectfully ask the board to explain the selection methodology. What published criteria allowed this recommendation? How were evaluator recommendations weighed against numerical scores? And were the same standards applied consistently to every applicant? Providing that explanation will strengthen confidence that OHA's grant decisions are fair, transparent, and consistently applied. I'm here if anybody has any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Kia kua pu. God bless all of you.
Thank you, Jermaine. Has anybody else signed up to testify?
Yes, online we have Shelby Pikachu Billionaire.
Okay, Shelby, I don't see him on my screen. Oh, there he is. Shelby,
Hello, can you guys hear me? I can't see you guys.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I think I'm on my cell phone, that's why there's no video. So, yeah. Budgets, you always got my email. Obviously, it doesn't have all the details in the agenda, but I do want to approve it because you guys already have it. It's already there. You guys already know what you're going to do with the money for the capital investment project. I know this is going to be a short one. You guys can discuss it out. But obviously, you do have to do a little more discernment of how you do the programs. I am inspired by what you guys are doing. For example, I started my own Billionaire Foundation nonprofit inspired by you guys because you have to have a nonprofit in order to benefit through OHA. But a lot of Hawaiians, when I talk to Big Island, Kauai, and Maui, even though they're Hawaiian, some of them don't even have the red card. And they're asking me, what does OHA do for the non-Hawaiians? And so hopefully we can bridge the gap with these projects and they can see a more direct benefit to our beneficiaries. Thank you very much for your time. Aloha.
Thank you, Shelby. Okay, members, so I'm going to put this motion on the table to approve the reassignment of $2,550,000 in unused FY26 CIP funds to the FY27 CIP program. So I'm putting that motion on the table. Is there any discussion or any questions about this motion? Okay, hearing none, can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna. Trustee Akaka.
I want to make sure we are voting on the new business action item BF 2615.
Only motion number 1A.
Yeah, only motion. Put it up there, guys.
It's
When-
up
when I
there. It's been up there.
Make it, can you guys read it? Is it too
I'm
small?
gonna go Trustee Akina. Trustee Alapa. Was that a yes? Sorry. Was that a yes? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Trustee Galataria. Trustee Kahele. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Chair Waihe'e.
Yes,
Trustee Akaka.
so, okay,
Was that it? Yes? Okay, 9 yes votes.
okay, the motion carries. So now I'm gonna put the second motion, which is to approve the 6 recommended FY27 CIP grant awards totaling $2,514,600, subject to final eligibility documentation, budget, and contracting requirements. So, because this is kind of a new program, and I can see why there's some questions about it. Do we have anyone to explain the recommendations and
Yes, we do.
the,
And
the,
I'm
the
gonna-
language of the motion?
Correct. So I'm going to call up Chantel Pillai to answer the specific programmatic questions. And then if we have, following her presentation, any other questions beyond that in terms of the motion language and the options before you, I will be here to support, as will Corp Counsel. Thank you.
Aloha, Chair and trustees. The recommendations before you today are the result of a competitive review process. Applications were evaluated based on the eligibility requirements, alignment with OHA's strategic plan, project readiness, budget reasonableness, and consistency with the state CIP award that they all received. Each application was independently scored by 3 evaluators, followed by additional staff due diligence to verify eligibility and allowable project costs before developing these final recommendations. So these recommendations represent a strategic investment in lasting Native Hawaiian community assets. Across these projects, OHA will be supporting the preservation and revitalization of significant cultural landscapes, strengthening Hawaiian-focused education, expanding health and wellness infrastructures, and creating community spaces that foster ohana connection, cultural practices, and long-term lahui resilience. I'm here to answer any additional questions or specific questions about the process and the recommendations.
Okay, is there any questions? Anyone? Trustee Lindsay.
Chair, I have before me all the proposed CIP projects. My question is, are we approving distribution of the funds, or are we just approving budgeted funds? In other words, are we going to ask for more information on, let's say, the projects that are listed here? I see 13, and I see, numbers like 2 million, 1 million, 500,000. Those are significant numbers, and I just think that we need more information before we give out that kind of money. So I'm just asking you if we are budgeting but not approving for distribution until we get more information.
Yeah, that's a good question, because the motion is subject to 2 things. So what is, can you answer Trustee Lindsay's question?
Thank you, trustee. So the budget we're working with is the 2.55 million that was originally allocated to FY26. And just to explain the delay, we did extend the solicitation process out of consideration for the storms that affected the islands and affected the organization's abilities to submit their documentation. So we tried to be sensitive to what was happening on all of our islands. So within the 2.55, what we wanted to do was provide you with information of all the applications that went through the evaluation process. So 13 went through the evaluation process, and you see them here with their rankings by the evaluators. So what we did was, taking the 2.55, we started to award the first, so the highest ranking, and then second, third, fourth, fifth. And then at that point, we had just a little bit left from the 2.55, not enough to move forward with organizations like the YWCA and with the Keaukaha Gym, but we had enough to award the one after that, which would be BISAC. And again, part of this motion and discussion is for the board to have this discussion. These are our recommendations. If you feel moved to follow those amounts, decrease, increase, reallocate, that's what this discussion is for. And you can see the other organizations who also scored very well and the amounts that they applied for with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Well, what's if if we approve this motion, what exactly is getting approved today?
So the six organizations, so starting with Hui Malama o Kanaeoluma, so they would get 339,000. Yes, yes, the first six, that's six.
Summer, did you?
And if I may, also, right, if we recall sort of how this unfolded and initiated from its inception, the board was originally motivated to make a deep investment in community. And capital improvement projects, by definition, are deep investments in community. What was, at the time of the program's introduction, the original proposal, what was up for debate was whether or not the board would play a more direct role in identifying where those deep investments were going, or if we were going to, we as an agency, we're going to open the opportunity for a competitive grant process. But all along the way, this idea of deeply investing in community, which necessarily means significant funds for more permanent, more long-standing capital improvement projects that had also identified other community partners, state government, county agencies that had simultaneously or prior to OHA providing its supplemental or augmented funding, had already done the heavy lifting of the deep due diligence that's necessary to even qualify for OHA's program. So a due diligence requirement was part of the vetting process, and the evaluative panel, which was comprised of non-OHA staff, who looked at all of these applications that passed that early threshold of a government partner who had already done some of the due diligence, and some of these other criteria that were built into the program, and then evaluated on the merits of their application, and provided scores, which which were shared with you in the board folder, and then rated in a way that made sense both for the budget allocation originally afforded this CIP program, and where in that budget allocation, you know, these top scores ranked. So I just wanted to give a big picture view that the deep investments giving our applicants hundreds of thousands of dollars to create a permanent structure or permanent kind of, capital improvement project is the point of the program.
Thank you. So members, so these are the 6 awardees. Is there any more discussion or any other questions about any of these? Trust. If you would like. Okay. Let me rescind the motion. Let me. Okay. Since there are only 6, I don't mind doing them one by one. So members, I'm going to rescind my motion that I put on the table, and I'm going to make a motion instead. Make a new motion to approve. To approve the recommended FY27 CIP grant award totaling $339,600 to Hui Malama o Kane Olumua for construction of a restoration of an ancient Hawaiian village on Kauai, subject to final eligibility, documentation, budget, and contracting requirements. Okay, Trustee Kahele.
Hey, thanks, Chair Wahe. First of all, I'd like to thank, our grants and our community investments team. I think like what Summer just said, this is a new program that the Board of Trustees in its biennium budget wrestled with and ultimately approved, $5 million approximately over the course of 2 fiscal biennium budget years to fund community investments that are in high demand throughout our Native Hawaiian community. And so, in any new program that you unfold, there's clearly a tremendous amount of work that has to go into that, and developing the application process, recruiting evaluators, reviewing the different applicants. Obviously there were 13 of them, and then providing this board with a very transparent record of the scoring, as mentioned by the 2 community testifiers. And so I do recognize that this is a pilot effort, and I really appreciate the time and the grant teams and the community investment team's willingness to improve on this process. I do think the process has the potential to be improved. And so my questions Chair, isn't specifically to a individual project. And I know the project on Kauai is currently on the table now, but I do have a few questions that are really directed toward how we got to where we are now and potentially how we can improve this program going forward. Maybe it changes the staff's recommendations, maybe it doesn't, but ultimately it's to help the board provide the right type of policy guidance for these future funding rounds. Is it okay if I proceed with those questions, Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so for the first question I have is, you mentioned the evaluators, and I've had a chance to look through all the recommendations and the evaluators' comments, and ultimately their decisions of to fund or not to fund. And so my first round of questions are, when for our grants team, or maybe this is for Chantel, when looking at establishing the external evaluators, because correct me if I'm wrong, that's what they were, right? These were not internal current OHA staff that evaluated these applications. These were external evaluators.
Yes, correct, external.
So what qualifications were you looking for when looking for external evaluators?
Okay, so we did put out a call for evaluators with a that CIP background, so in the construction field, permitting field, those that would understand the process of what it takes to create and complete these types of projects, as well as our experienced grant evaluators. And we did get a number of applications with from individuals with that background. We, in the end, ended up with a three-person panel with a combination of a like CIP experienced background, as well as very knowledgeable with evaluating grants.
Why was the evaluator pool the decision to have that entirely external made versus a combination or a mix of internal OHA staff that have an expertise in the NHO, the Native Hawaiian programs that we currently fund, working alongside with external evaluators?
Sure. So part of our grants SOP has always been for our competitive grants to use evaluators from outside of our organization. I think with some of the programs we are doing right now, where we are using in-house expertise, I think that is something that we can consider for the next round. If for the future of this program, it would be, I think, very useful to collaborate with those experts in-house as well as our external evaluators.
What process did you and the team utilize to ensure that the external evaluators that were selected fully understand OHA's statutory mission, our trust responsibilities, our beneficiary priorities, before they began reviewing and ultimately scoring the applications?
So each evaluator had a one-on-one training session with a member of our grants team, in which we explain, OHA's purpose. We go over our strategic plan. We go over how this program was developed. We go over the rubric with them. We spend several hours individually with each evaluator to be sure that they understand the process and their kuleana before appointing them as an official evaluator for the program.
Who ultimately selected the evaluators? Was it a panel? Was it an individual? Who signed off on the selection of the evaluators?
I did. So we review, so they reach out to us, there's a form they fill out, we review the form, and then we call them and we have a conversation with them. Part of the form is illustrating their experiences as an evaluator, or if we're looking for a specialization in which we are asking them to. So for this case, it was CIP. Other times it's education backgrounds, housing backgrounds. And then from there, we are able to move forward with them.
I'm assuming that the evaluators, whether they were Hawaiian or non-Hawaiian, but that they would have native Hawaiian subject matter expertise prior to being selected?
As much as possible, we do include that, yes.
Okay. You know, I noticed that there are, to Chair Emeritus' point, some fairly significant scoring differences among the evaluators. And in some cases, the evaluators' comments don't necessarily match like the final, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down recommendation on the last page. So at what point does a scoring variance trigger an additional review internally by our OHA staff? Yes. And was there any like calibration among the evaluators before scoring?
Sure. So yes, whenever there is a 2-point discrepancy between scores, we go into automatic calibration. So the team or the evaluators did meet with grants personnel, and there was a recalibration period during this process. We do not influence their decisions and their voting. Merely, we are there to help facilitate the conversation among them during the recalibration process. At that time, they're able to update their scores if they so choose to update their comments, and then we do the final closing of their scoring.
So do the evaluators meet after reviewing an applicant's package to discuss whether there were significant discrepancies in how they were scored? And then is a 2-point variance and somewhat of a best practice that, or is there a best practice that we should consider when you have an unusually wide scoring variance that triggers another level of review?
Okay. What was the first part?
The first part was, did the evaluators meet afterward to discuss if there was a significant discrepancy? Like, yeah, I scored these guys a 1, you had them a 3, how come?
Right. Yes, so they only meet during the recalibration period. We want to make sure that they're following confidentiality when they're discussing their evaluations. As for the 2-point scoring, it's something that we've done for a number of years. Again, I think our processes can be updated, and that is something the grants team has started to do in the last few months, is start to relook at some of our SOPs and seek best guidance for the grants program as well.
You know, Chantel, given that, and I was surprised that we only had 13 applicants, given, you know, the state legislative CIP program that I've had a chance to see firsthand, and where we have hundreds of CIP applicants, you know, granted native Hawaiian and non-native Hawaiian, but 13 is a relatively small applicant pool. So one of the things I thought of when I reviewed all of the content was, were staff site visits included in the evaluation of these 13 applications? Yes or no?
Yes. We did not do site visits for these projects, but if I could share, initially we had 38 organizations come in for the CIP process. So 9 did not make it through the LOI process, missed deadlines, missing documentations, or they simply did not have a state award that they could use to apply. 2 two that did pass through the LOI process ended up abandoning their application, so did not proceed with their application. And then there were 14 applications which we couldn't accept. Again, missed deadlines, incomplete documents, or at further review, as we looked at some of their state documents, the realization that their contracts with the state had actually ended. And so they no longer met the eligibility criteria of having an active grant. So after that, we had the final 13 that had met all requirements to put through evaluation.
So, I mean, that's great that we had 38. But given the fact that we had 13, I guess this would be a question for you. I mean, going through this first pilot project, do you think site visits should become part of future CIP rounds? And the reason I say that is because sometimes it's really difficult to fully understand how a capital project application stands on its merits just on paper. You know, visiting the site, meeting the project team can provide really valuable context for an application. Given the fact that, you know, it's a pretty small amount of money we're talking about, you know, as compared to the state CIP program, $2.5 million, as you can see, spread out across 6 potential awards, with pretty small amounts, though one has $1 million in its recommended award, are pretty small. Do you think site visits should be incorporated or should have been incorporated?
I think that's a great point, and I think if we partner with future cycles with our land department, with their expertise and specialization in this matter, I think that would be really helpful. And I think along with that is making sure we work with administration to make sure we have the budget to also do those site visits.
I would recommend it. You know, I mean, this board has had a chance through its different neighbor island site visits and Oahu site visits to visit specific locations that ultimately became applicants, and to be able to walk through the facility, to see a current facility that maybe is in need of repair, or to see and experience the vision from a project team of what they want to bring to fruition, I think is very impactful and is something that that we should strongly consider. The other question I have is on leveraging. You know, how did, and I'd like to just better understand this because I'm not able, and maybe I missed it, but I wasn't able to discern it from the materials, was how was leverage considered in an application process? And when I say leveraging, I mean, we're matching funds evaluated. One of the requirements was that an applicant had to have an existing standing CIP from the state legislature to be a qualified applicant. So how were those matching funds evaluated based on the return of investment for OHA's potential CIP award? And was the ability of OHA's investment to unlock, whether it's federal funding or county or private funding, considered at all?
Yes. So as you said, each applicant had to have the state award. That award needed to be reflected in their budget. So we could see, for example, if they asked for $300,000, how they intended to use OHA's $300,000 matched with the state $300,000. There are also times when organizations did have additional funding from other state entities like DHHL, from the county, and so many times they often included that in their budget as well. And we also wanted to make sure that the budget reflected a CIP project and not a community program project, so to stay true to the purpose of this as well.
So of the 6 that are being recommended, which ones, if any, have a full, like, 100% match? Like, let's say Kalaupapa. The proposal is to award $1 million to the Kalaupapa Memorial. That has been talked about for a long time now, even when I was in the legislature. Do they have is OHA's $1 million being matched by $1 million from the state CIP program? And if the answer is yes, what are the other 5 that meet that same criteria for maximum leverage of our investment?
Yes, so Kalaupapa actually has $5 million that they have received for this memorial already, and they only requested, not only, but they requested $1 million from OHA for this project. All other organizations have a dollar for dollar match from the state for these. We did remove some costs that were more programmatic in nature from the Heiau program and from BISAC's program. They were not actual CIP costs. But other than that, everybody has a dollar for dollar match for their programs.
Okay, and then in terms of, once the evaluators are done doing their work, they provide their recommendations and materials to yourself and the team. Can you explain to the trustees how our internal staff moved from the evaluator scores to the final funding recommendations? You know, were they based strictly on numerical ranking? Was there any qualitative review that was completed? Did we look at geographical distribution across the state? Projects that were shovel ready versus still in concept? You know, how did we go from here's the recommendations from external evaluators, non-OHA staff, to this action item?
Sure. So once we had the evaluator scores, again, we compiled them, did the composite, ranked them. We checked that each applicant had was eligible to receive OHA funding. So if they were a former grantee, you know, were they successful as a grantee? As a matter of practice, at the end of each grant, we mark organizations as either eligible or eligible with reservations. And so we check that if they were a prior grantee, they were successful, they could move forward. We also checked if they had received their contracts from the state. 4 of the 6 have received their actual contracts. 2 contracts are pending. We have been in touch with them on the status of those contracts, and they should be forthcoming in the next month or 2. And then after that, we double-check their budgets once more to make sure that all budgeted items were CIP in nature and not programmatic, and that's where we see some of the changes for 2 of the applicants. And then using the 2.55, we started to make the recommendations in order of the rankings from the evaluators.
And, you know, since this is a pilot project and kind of in its inaugural phase, at this point where we are right now, whether this board accepts the recommendations, passes them today, or defers action on this for further review, what lessons have the staff learned or that you feel have already been identified that would maybe not necessarily redesign the program, but what would you do differently? And is there anything the trustees should consider when making these decisions?
I think there's some improvements we can make to the solicitation, definitely. I think we can communicate better with our communities about the purpose of the program, about how to fill out the applications and the process itself. I think partnership with our land PIA would be very beneficial, using their expertise in this area. And I will say we were maybe naively so, but very surprised at the number of applications that we received and the number of organizations that outreached. And these are all important projects for our communities. And we'd love to fund them all, but we're working with the 2.55. And again, you know, at the board's discretion, funding for these 6 or potentially more, you know, would be part of your discussion today. But the organizations, all of them are deeply rooted in our communities, and they have the pilina. So.
You know, I guess in closing, and thanks, Chair, for allowing me this line of questioning. You know, I really want to emphasize that these questions are intended to strengthen, you know, what I believe is you know, somewhat of a solid foundation. I would have preferred to have maybe informing of the trustees at some different gates throughout the process, rather than where we are right now, where there's questions and maybe some uncertainty of amounts or how we fell on these recommendations. You know, obviously the chairs decided to bifurcate now and take each individual project based on its merits, and it's just a lot. You know, I would have preferred to have a sit down with the grants team, maybe in each individual trustee, to be briefed on where we stood, kind of like how we did Mauli Ola, you know, strategic reassessment on the strategic plan, and then maybe also a more detailed slide deck of the various different 13 finalists, where they stood, maybe a more detailed matrix. It was a lot to go through the hundreds and hundreds of pages of applications process. You know, I didn't really need to review the County of Hawaii's organizational chart for its Parks and Recreation Division. You know, I really wanted to know like where the key data points were. And so presenting that to the board, you know, I would suggest if this does come back to the board, if this is done again, that we take a little bit of a different approach, because it is a lot, to Chair Emeritus' point, right? You know, over $2.5 million is a lot to award, and we want to make sure that we're doing it in the most transparent and accountable way. And, you know, having these questions answered ahead of time, you know, would be good to do. And, you know, those are just my recommendations. But I will stop there, and maybe my line of questioning triggered some others from my fellow trustees. Thanks, Chair.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yes.
Sure.
Sorry. Thank you, Chair, and sorry for being emotional. We've been working with them for many, many months, we just want to say that we are very open to improvements we can make if we're tasked with this program again in the next biennium, and we really would like to have those conversations with trustees before we get to the table as well. So mahalo.
Thank you. Has that triggered any other questions? Trustee Lindsay.
Thank you. Along the point of our chair, I also want to make a comment about CIP. When we first talked about CIP projects, I didn't feel that OHA had the kind of money to fund these big projects. And I agree that they all need money. I definitely agree. But are we the right agency to fund them? Because in my understanding is that OHA was not created to give out CIP money. We were created to provide programs through nonprofits to take care and improve the condition of our people's lives. So I look at these large numbers and it scares me because, first of all, they have access to legislature, county, and state monies. And I've been watching these agencies give out money, and they've been giving out a lot of money. So I'm just saying, what about the bulkhead at Fisherman's Wharf? You know, that's our property. What is the return on investment for all these 13 properties? It's just, you know, I just want to say that we have been given $1 for the bulkhead, so we cannot build on Fisherman's Wharf, you know? So I'm just saying that we need to put our priorities where we can afford. We just cannot afford a lot of these monies, and look how many we have to turn away. I'm okay with all of them, but do we have that kind of money? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? So the motion is to approve the grant recommendation for Hui Malama. Let me see if I can say this. Hui Malama o Kane Uluma. Okay. If there's no further discussion on that grant, can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna? Trustee Akaka? She's not voting, okay. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa? Trustee Galataria?
Aye.
Trustee Kahele?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza? Chair Waihe'e?
Yes.
Trustee Akaka? 8 yes votes.
Okay, so members, the next motion I'd like to make is to approve the recommended FY 27 CIP grant award totaling $500,000, subject to final eligibility documentation, budget, and contracting requirements to Honolulu La Hui. And this is for land acquisition for public charter school in Puna. Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none, can I get a roll call vote?
Hey,
Sure.
Chair Wahe, I do have a question.
Trustee Kai.
Hey, just a quick question, Chantel, just for our beneficiaries. And this goes for all the projects, right? We are approving this level of funding that was already approved by the Board of Trustees back June 30th, 2025, right? So FY 26 funds. So this is really the FY 26 CIP approvals. There's also a second tranche of funding, pretty similar amount, that your team is going to go immediately into for FY 27, which we're in now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So perhaps some of those process improvements, happy to meet with the team on that, but I just want our trustees to know that, right? That this team was going to go right into the second tranche of potential funding for FY 2027 immediately. Thanks, Chair Wahe.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none, can I get a roll call vote?
On Honolulu La Hui, Trustee Ahuna. Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galataria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Chair Waihe.
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Okay, the motion carries. Members, I'd like to also move now to approve the recommended FY 27 CIP grant award totaling $1 million, subject to final eligibility, documentation, budget, and contracting requirements to Ohana o Kalaupapa for the Kalaupapa Memorial. Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none.
Chair Wahe.
What's that?
I do have a question.
Trustee Kahele.
So I think, this recommendation, which is a lot of money, right? It's $1 million. It's significantly higher than the other applicants. Chantel, I think you should speak to this project. Also, in addition to if you're telling the board that they already have $5 million, can you explain this project in further detail? And then, also the difference between funding amounts. Like, why $1 million? Like, how was that selected versus some of these others that are lower dollar amounts?
Okay, so each organization came in with their own amounts, matching their CIP award. So the lower amount organizations asking for maybe $175,000, that's equal to their state award of $175,000. So Kalaupapa came in, having received $5 million from the state and requested from OHA the $1 million. And so the Kalaupapa Memorial will create a permanent place of remembrance for the more than 8,000 individuals forcibly exiled to Kalaupapa, approximately 90% of whom were Native Hawaiians. Again, we checked strategic alignment, and they align with our strategy 3 and 4. And the group strongly believes that it will restore dignity to those who are exiled in Kalaupapa, that it preserves an important chapter of our history, and then it creates a permanent cultural resource that can be used for education as well as remembrance. Sorry.
That sounds great. But I still don't understand why we're at $1 million for this particular project? Like, how did we get to that number in terms
Sure.
of the criteria or the scoring?
Sure. So again, they were the third highest scoring, and when we looked at their budget, it was all CIP related. So there weren't any programmatic expenditures that would have subtracted from that million. So we kept it at that million for the board's actual deliberation on if it's feasible for us to do that 1 million or if it should be adjusted in some way. But we checked that they're eligible, they met the criteria, their budget aligns with what a CIP budget should be. It more than matches their state award.
And I'm not like challenging the merits of the project. I think
Sure.
it's incredibly important, and Kalaupapa, you know, has a very, very important place in Hawaii's history and the history of Native Hawaiians. My only thoughts are on maximizing the CIP funding. Like, is our $1 million like make or break for the project? Could they have used $500,000 and we could have appropriated, you know, 500 or 250 or something other amount to a seventh awardee or an eighth awardee? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yes, so I think part of that discussion today is we would support an adjustment of this award because their match funds is such a large amount, and that there are other projects that could be funded as well with an adjustment made here.
And you know, trustees, I'm not suggesting that, and to all the people from Molokai and Kalaupapa, I'm not, you know, discounting your project or wanting to reduce the amount, but we do have a fiduciary duty to spread as much CIP funding as possible throughout the Pai'aina, and because there's already a sizable amount that's been appropriated, and when looking at the overall scope of the project, like, is there an adjustment to be made? And I'm not going to suggest a motion on that unless, you know, the other trustees are compelled to, but just something to think about. Is there an administrative recommendation, or does any other trustee chair have any suggestions?
Trustee Lindsay.
I'd like to ask a question. This line of approval versus the next one, I'd like to ask staff if they just split the numbers in half, because it looks identical. Hui Malama, 339, 339. Is it 2 awards?
Sorry, one trustee, so one award for the 339?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one award. Yeah.
So where's the second list that Summer said that you're going to go to next? I want to compare that with what we're giving out now. There's been so much papers. Chair, we got 2,000 papers. And that's what I was kind of complaining earlier, because there's no way I could have gone through 2,000 papers in 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Maybe Summer can answer that and speak from the admin's position.
Sure. So the grants team really did take this particular project by the horns and navigated it through some unprecedented kind of considerations and deliberations. What was presented before you with respect to the 6 are the recommended highest scoring with other considerations or factors also informing that recommendation. And then to, like, in a effort to be as fully transparent as possible, the remaining list of applicants and their corresponding evaluative scores and all of the supporting documentation, so that the idea being that if the trustees wanted to use their discretionary authority, which they have, to make a different decision on any of the recommendations, that you'd be equipped with all of the resources that the grants team and the evaluators had, more or less, to make those kinds of discretionary choices. So this was always contemplated to have been an agency and trustee partnership. I think what we heard from Chair is good learnings, that partnership need not happen at this table, that we can have one-on-one meetings prior to coming to the table, and having those kind of discussions and sharing of information. But, you know, again, in order to really respond to this idea of making this process as competitive as possible and also as transparent as possible and also as data informed as possible, the reason why you have a voluminous board folder is because you have everything at your fingertips to use your discretionary authority to either support the recommendation put forth by the grants team or exercise your independent assessment and make whatever appropriate adjustments you think are worthy.
Chair.
Trustee Lindsay.
I just want to suggest in the future, and I know you remember because this used to happen in all the previous years, where we would have a workshop where we don't approve anything, but our staff would run us through the budget so that we understand it by the time we have to make the decisions. You know, before today, I didn't see, before this week, I should say, I didn't see any of this stuff, and that's kind of not enough time. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this grant? Yeah. Can I get a roll call vote?
I want to make a
Trustee Lindsay.
adjustment. I think I take our chair's comments with great consideration, and I think that we should lower the amount of the Kalaupapa Memorial only because they do have $4 million already. I think that's wonderful that they have $4 million. But on the other hand, I don't know what they're building. So in order to spread out the money, I'd like to propose that we cut that money in half.
Okay, is there, so there's a motion to, there's an amendment to cut that in half. I want to know what the will of the committee is because I don't really want to cut it in half, but I also want to approve something. So whatever has 5 votes, because I don't want to, so I'm curious. Trustee Akaka.
Chantel, could you elaborate in terms of what cutting that amount, what that would cut in terms of that 1 million?
It would, sorry, okay, closer. Okay. So what that would mean is if they're approved at the new 500,000 rate, when we go into contracting, we would just adjust their budget down from 500,000. And again, their budget was very consistent with CIP costs. So it could be in terms of materials or maybe labor costs. But again, they have the 5 million as well.
Would that delay their timeline?
No, no.
I want to go to Trustee Souza because he hasn't spoken today. Trustee Souza.
Well, Mr. Chair, Malo Chantel and your team, Summer as well. Mr. Chair, should we just propose maybe deferring the next few items? I think this board needs possibly more information. I think the meeting of the BCS would be a violation, potential violation of Sunshine Law. I'm not sure how that would work. I mean, meeting individual, could we meet individually?
Yes, so I think you can meet individually,
Yeah.
which was contemplated,
that up then.
which is the administration meeting one-on-one with trustees, but the kind of like collective board workshop, not not permissible under sunshine law. But you can still accomplish everything that I think is desired and was expressed in the one-on-ones where, you know, information sharing, whatever guidance, questions need to get answered, and then some alternative proposals with administrative staff is totally permissible.
Yeah, I think there's more of an opportunity doing it that way,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, and deferring
You
it,
could agendize it.
and
Okay,
giving the feedback to our grants department.
Okay, wait, but right now there's a motion on the table and an amendment on it. So I have to clean that up first. But trustee Kahele, he has his hand up.
Yeah, no, just before trustee Souza spoke, I understand what Chair Merida is proposing, but, it would be difficult for me to just come up with a number, and I don't think this board should just come up with a random number, less than $1 million, without fully having an opportunity to vet through this particular project, and then maybe the others as well. And so, I've been trying to quickly scan through their application, and I would be happy to support the full recommended amount, but I'm a little hesitant to do that without fully weighing the merits of the project against the others as well. And I think, for the administration, like the challenge we have as trustees is not putting our finger on a scale too much of various different projects, right? I mean, there's no surprise that the Keaukaha Gym project in Hilo, was I thought was a very important project, and went to visit as well. It was not recommended for funding. I support that recommendation. I looked through the evaluator's comments, but, I'm not here to change that or to put my finger on the scale of that decision. But I do think as trustees, we have to be comfortable with the decisions we are rendering and the distribution of funds we are expending, and $1 million, is a lot to go to a project that already has secured $5 million from alternative funding. And it's not to discount the merits of the project, it's just how can we maximize our impact across the state, with so many projects that need funding. So I would support Vice Chair Souza's recommendation if we feel like we need more time, if we want some one-on-ones with staff. I feel solidly after reviewing the two that we just did approve, that those were worthy as well. Not to say that 4, 5, and 6, I would have felt the same way, but I just wanted to raise the point because of the dollar amount that was being proposed, and it being such a significant part of the FY26, total funding amount of $2.5 million.
Okay, so Hulu, there's, your amendment's still there. Did you want to just take the vote on your amendment? Or did you want to withdraw it?
I'll withdraw my amendment.
Okay, so,
And I'll go with
so,
Souza's suggestion.
okay, so right now we're on, and the motion on the table is for the Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa, right?
Yeah.
Trustee Souza, did you have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I motion to defer number 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay,
Number 3 being Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa. Number 4 being Homestead Community Development Corporation. Number 5 being Polynesian Voyaging Society. Number 6 being YWCA Oahu, to a later meeting.
And Big Island Substance Abuse Council.
Oh, Ikalmai. And number
that's
8,
number 6.
the Big Island Substance Abuse Council.
Yeah,
Is that number 6?
so you guys understand,
Wait. Yeah.
So the motion,
So
you guys
3,
understand,
4, 5, and 6.
you guys understand what that means, right? It's the grant awardees that are labeled under those numbers. Trustee Akaka.
Thank you. My question, I think, might fall in line with the last statement that you made, Chair Wahe, in terms of making sure that if this were to be deferred, the only ones that would be receiving any funding whatsoever, and that 1 million would be divided amongst the 6 of this group, no more than just the 6.
Summer.
So I think actually, to accomplish what I'm hearing at the table from Chair Merida and everyone else, is that you would like an opportunity to review the remaining recommended applicants and also potentially look at the other eligible applicants, the remaining 13, to see if any of those should be also considered, should you decrease any of the wards that were recommended originally to the 3, 4, 5, and 6 applications. In other words, give you the maximum authority and deliberative discretion to look at the applications that were deemed eligible and make a decision based on that information available to you, with the help and guidance of the administrative staff there to answer any questions and navigate the data. Okay.
Trustee Galatario.
Yeah, thank you. I was fully prepared to support these numbers today. We haven't heard from the Molokai trustee about Kalaupapa. Do you have a thought?
Well, I wanted to share my experience as I visited Kalaupapa for the first time in my life. And we were taken on a history tour of the place. Outside of chicken skin, a lot of sorrow. You can imagine the families, the horrors they went through during that tumultuous time in their lives, but also to serve as a reminder to our people of what our history was like. And that is, to me, the most important thing is to honor our people who suffered greatly. And $1 million plus $5 million, to me, is not enough, because this is going to serve as a memorial for the rest of our lives and more for those who have a chance to visit this place and learn about the history, especially for the generations to come after us. So I'm personally for the 1 million for our Kalaupapa Memorial. Mahalo.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. So, I mean, I was also prepared to approve all of the rest of them, but I mean, we need 5 to do so. Trustee Kahele.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So, just to clarify, like if we do support Vice Chair's recommendation and defer 3, 4, 5, and 6 to another Budget and Finance Committee hearing, as early as a little less than 2 weeks from now, would also give us a chance to meet with the staff and have more time to review those we didn't approve, and then also look at the others that were not awarded funding in the event that there's a staff recommendation to adjust the amounts, or if the staff recommendation stands and the trustees want to adjust amounts, then we could do that as well. My only question is, the 2 that we approved were scheduled to be on tomorrow's board agenda. They are on tomorrow's board agenda. All 6 of them are. And so if there is a desire to defer decision-making on tomorrow's board agenda so that all 6 or whatever we finally approve in the BNF committee 2 weeks from now, or whenever, Chair, you schedule this to be heard again by the BNF committee, would then come before the board fully. So I guess that would be a open-ended question for yourself or for the rest of the trustees.
Is there any other discussion on deferring these? Can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka, this is on deferring.
Wait.
Ole.
It's listed as 6 in the motion. It is listed as number 6 in the motion. It is. It is listed as 8 in the full organization, but it's listed as 6 in the motion. Big Island substance abuse.
I'm going to clarify that's why when you identify it like this, it's hard. I'm going to clarify Trustee Souza's motion. So, he's can you guys try to write this down? He's moving to defer the approval of the recommended CIP grant awards to Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa, Homestead Community Development Corporation, Polynesian Voyage Society, and the Big Island Substance Abuse Council. That's what the motion is.
Yes. Trustee Aquina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galataria. It's for deferring.
Huh?
To defer.
Or defer? No.
Yeah. No?
No.
Okay. Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Chair Waihe'e.
Yes.
We have 4 yeses, 3 nos, and 2 excused.
Okay. All right. Okay, then boy. No, now we have to go forward with, try to approve them. So, we're back on Ka'ohana o Kalaupapa. How many members are present? Is it majority?
7 members present.
Wait, guys.
Yeah.
I think it's. I think it requires in the bylaw. Okay. But to move it out of. No, yeah, can. Okay, so it got deferred. Yes. No, the reason why too bad. The reason why I wanted to, I voted to defer it was because we only had, with my vote, we only would have had 4 votes to pass anything else. And my fear was that if they fell, then that's it for those recipients. And I didn't trust that someone would come along and support us with moving those forward. So we'll defer it and hopefully we'll get everyone on board, or at least 5 guys on board.
So are you saying then that items 1 through 2 will be on,
Yes.
on for tomorrow?
They'll be on for tomorrow.
For ratification, all right.
Okay, it did. All right. So we're moving on to, okay, guys, the Biennium budget fiscal budget realignment number 3. And so, Summer, who's call up the Grace or whoever?
Yes, I'm happy to call up our Chief Financial Financial Officer Didin Patel, our Investment Director Ryan Lee, and our Budget Chief Grace Chen. Thank you. Oh, or just,
Okay, they come up, but before you start, we do have public testimony on this, and I will like to call up Jermaine Myers.
Chair, can you hear me? Oh,
I can hear you.
Aloha, Honorable Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I'm an OHA beneficiary and a longtime advocate. I appreciate the work that goes into preparing year-end budget alignments. I recognize that many of the adjustments before you today are routine, accounting, corrections, and necessary housekeeping. I respectfully ask the committee to provide greater transparency regarding 3 specific adjustments before approving them. I will be submitting UIPA requests regarding these things to be audited and for answers to be given to my questions, in addition to the last agenda item, since no answers were provided. First, the packet transfers $44,000 into contracts for what is described only as OHA-related litigation costs. The packet does not identify the litigation, the outside law firm, or vendor receiving the funds, whether this payment falls within an existing contract or OHA's total expenditures related to that litigation. I understand that legal strategy may be protected by attorney-client privilege. However, basic financial information, such as the amount being transferred, the vendor receiving payment, the contract authority, and OHA's total expenditures is not the same as privileged legal advice. As beneficiaries, we should understand how trust resources are being spent. Second, I have questions regarding the $228,500 budget realignment associated with the statewide primary debate. As beneficiaries know, the July 20 debate was canceled. That makes this proposed realignment especially important. What costs, if any, were actually incurred before the debate was canceled? Originally, it started off as $250,000, and I see a realignment for $228,500. So what costs, if any, were actually incurred before the debate was canceled? What contracts had already been executed? What payments have already been made? And what obligations remain outstanding? How many of the board's previously authorized funding remains unspent? And if funds are no longer needed, will they be returned to the budget categories from which they were transferred? Beneficiaries deserve a clear accounting of how these trust funds were used following the cancellation of the event. Finally, and third, I have questions regarding the military lease land initiative. While today's realignment carries forward $95,977, the packet also reflects approximately $500,000, $500,000 in total authorized resources through actual expenditures, purchase orders, purchase requisitions, and the proposed carryover. Given the magnitude of this investment, I respectfully ask the board to provide beneficiaries with a detailed fiscal year 27 work plan identifying the contracts, remaining balances, expected deliverables, project timelines, and measurable outcomes, and also for our fiscal year 26 monies that were spent. I also ask that the board receive regular public reports comparing expenditures and encumbrances with actual progress on the initiative. In closing, I respectfully ask that routine accounting adjustments not be treated the same as significant spending decisions involving litigation, canceled events, and major initiatives. If appropriate, I encourage the committee to approve the routine administrative adjustments separately while allowing additional discussion and public explanation regarding the litigation transfer, the debate-related realignment, and the $500,000 military lease land initiative, which I'll address in my community concerns tomorrow. Kia kuapu, God bless all of you.
Okay, thank you, Jermaine. So, Grace. Okay, I'm going to, did they want these done separately? Okay, I'm just going to make the motion then. I'm going to move to approve the FY 26-27 budget realignment number 3 as summarized in attachment 1, and then approve the carryover of up to $95,977.13. That's $95,977.13 in unspent, uncommitted, and unencumbered funds from Board Action BNF 2601, or originally appropriated for the Permitted Interaction Group budget for military lease negotiations and advocacy initiatives into FY 2027. These funds will support the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Military Leased Land Initiative, including strategic planning, legal analysis, community engagement, and advocacy efforts related to the future of U.S. military leased lands in Hawaii. So that's the motion, and I'll turn it over to Grace to explain those actions. Or go ahead. And, guys, you have to share that one mic.
But this, you can use this or
I can use this. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Good afternoon, Chair.
I didn't introduce our CFO. Wait, Darren Patel. Sorry, Darren. I guess we have. This is the first time the board has met you. This is wait. Is it Dhirain Patel, who's our new CFO? If you'd like to, before you continue, if you'd like to say a few words,
Sure.
Introducing yourself to
Sure.
the rest of the committee.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and trustees. It's an honor to be part of OHA, serving as the Chief Financial Officer. It's an honor to be part of OHA, serving as the Chief Financial Officer. I have already developed a deep appreciation for the organization and the dedication of the Board of Trustees, leadership, and staff. I look forward to working alongside everyone in the organization and to look after the OHA's financial resources. They are managed with integrity, accountability, transparency, and have a long-term stewardship in serving the Native Hawaiian community and beneficiaries. I'm committed to board's priorities, and I will do my part to advance the OHA's mission and to serve on behalf of the Native Hawaiians and the beneficiaries. I'm still in this is my 4th week, so still on the learning curve, but I have a great team, and I saw the trustees in action, so I'm very appreciative for the support, and willing to learn and share as much as I can in a short period of time. With that, I invite Grace to go through the budget realignment number 3. and the board action, the action item 26-16. Anyone has anything you want to know about me more?
Any questions? Okay. No. Okay, Grace. On him, him personally. Like his favorite food. Did you want to?
Okay, I will. Okay. All right. Good afternoon. Actually, it's my pleasure working with Duran. Actually, the past couple of days, we went over the budget details, page by page, understanding tick and tie all my figures to present the figures today. Today we are presenting the budget fiscal year 2026 and fiscal 2027 budget realignment number 3. The requested action has 2 parts. First, the approval of the proposed fiscal 26 budgetary allocations, as summarized in attachment 1, table 3.1. Can we have that up? Just to let you know what the board will be approving as we continue this presentation. So we're looking at 3.1, which is the second table. So to focus on the figures. The first table shows what it was in the prior budget realignment number 1. This third table shows the difference between the first and the second table. I'm sorry, it's still the same page. The table, the table at the end of the page in blue, that shows the fiscal 27 budget. Attachment number 1, therefore, should the Board of Trustees approve, we'll approve the figures in the second table. And then keeping the table number 4, the 3.3, the blue table, no change to that. Second motion is authorization to carry forward 95,000 plus of an unspent, uncommitted, and unencumbered fiscal 26 budgetary authority into the fiscal 27 for the military land lease initiative. Before I go on and for historical context, in June 2025, the Board of Trustees approved the original fiscal 26 and fiscal 27 biennium budget. In March 2026, the board approved budget realignment number 1, having action item BF 2606, which adjusted the fiscal 26 budget, keeping the fiscal 27 original. In June 2026, last month, the board approved BF 2614, realignment number 2, which updated the fiscal 27 budget. Today, we are presenting budget realignment number 3, which updates the fiscal 26 budget and incorporates previously approved board action items from March to June, administrative budget adjustments during this period, align the budget with accounting's preliminary year-end records, and supports the fiscal 26 financial close and annual audit. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
I'm sorry?
Before
I go on.
No, okay. Okay, Grace.
All right. Table number 1 of the action item. If I can have that on the board, please. Reflects the fiscal 26 spending limit and shows an increase of $170,000, $170,564 in federal funding for the Papahanaumokuai program. Can we look down to the bottom, please? As well as that's in section 4, as well as in section 2, updates the investment lands portion Can we go up to the table a little to show the heading tables? Thank you. The first column shows what the figures in budget realignment number 1, which reflects on under the investment land, the estimated gross revenue to determine the spending limit for the year. And I'm taking this opportunity to say that now that fiscal year 26 has closed and we have preliminary June 30th figures to provide new estimates. What was a year ago, we estimated Kakamakai to have a revenue of 3.6. We're looking at 4.5, and actually I have a more updated figure of looking at 5.2 that I just received this morning. Lāma Kukui was 6.6 million in revenue. We're looking at 6.2 when I prepared this presentation, but today actually they're telling me 6.3. I also thought that it was important to bring back the Iwilei Business Center, which is 501 Sumner. Estimated revenue, had it been fully rented out, would have been $780,000. Due to the delay in the tenant, we're looking at an adjustment and of recording $162,000 in revenue. So a decrease of 618. Good news is that the tenant is in place, and then for the Iwilei Business Center, we're looking at 656 next year. So it's really a good news for Daniel and also Leanne in bringing them in. Also showing a minor adjustment for the Honolulu Harbor property, well, represented by 500 North Nimitz, and then a slight adjustment from 4.3 to 4.1. So I just want to bring your attention to the spending limit and its adjustments. Any questions? Next, we'll look at table 2. Again, just want to highlight the adjustments proposed in realignment number 3, that there is no adjustments. The adjustments in the core operating budget remains unchanged. The budget remains unchanged. And the change in the budget, again, is reflected in in section number 4 under the Papahono Kea. $170,564. So an increase of $170,564 in this budget realignment number 3. Questions? We want to make sure that you're following.
Any questions? Who's got the mic?
Mike? Oh, this works. Oh, it works.
Chair, I don't know if this is applicable in our operations budget, but I wanted to know where the 55 million is parked.
That is not reflected in this realignment. So it was not budgeted in fiscal 26. We just received, the good news, we just received the money. It was deposited in our account last week. We will, my understanding that the administration will bring back an action item for provide an update on it. So right now it's deposited in our account and then earning a, actually I can bring Ryan to talk about that. 3.5%.
Don't go off on too much of a tangent. It's temporary, I mean, or.
I don't have an estimated timeline on that yet, but as soon as we know, I'm sure that we will let you know as well. Okay. Going on, key adjustments in the core operating budgets I included in attachment number 2. Starting on page 2. So I have, these tables shows the justification for of the budget, as well as where it's coming from, the amounts that's coming from the program, the amount, as well as where it's going to. and includes, on a high level, restoring funding for Wailua Courthouse repairs and maintenance, $15,000, $10,000 supporting the Kona Low disaster recovery activities. Jermaine mentioned $44,000 additional funding for litigation-related costs, $228,500 for the primary debate allocations, and as well as updating several program budgets to reflect current operational priorities. Each of these line items are supported by the budget line details beginning in attachment 3, page 20. And as you can see, Melissa is helping us to show the budget details starting on page 20. So all the details are included in attachment number 3. Thank you, Melissa. Today's proposal also includes several non-core budget reallocations, including adjustments for Iwalei Business Center, Native Hawaiian Revolving Loan, Papahona Kea Grant Funding, and the Native Hawaiian Investment Fund. Any questions up to this point? Next one, for the Military Lease Initiative carryover, the second portion of the action requests approval to carry for the remaining $95,977. For clarification, the board originally approved $500,000 biennium budget in February 2026. Although the initiative was intended to span both 2026 and 2027, the entire appropriation was established in fiscal year 2026. As of June 30th, 2026, after accounting for expenditures, purchase requisitions, and purchase orders, $95,977 remains available. For clarification, and is included in the action item, I mentioned that as of the writing when I was preparing it, actual expenditures was $89,000. That is that we had paid out $89,000. What happens at the fiscal year end is that those that are also in procurement also gets carried forward, and we hold those funds, of which $60,000 we're holding, procurement's holding, and to procure kapa'aka analysis. So that has not been spent and is procurement. When we budgeted for the $500,000, the $500,000 made available, so they started encumbering the funds. And in those that has been awarded contracts, that of that is in contract stage, there's still $254,000 of that available. That is to say that while it seems like $404,000 has been spent, actually, as of June 30th, $89,000 was spent. $60,000 in procurement to procure kapa'akain analysis, and $254,000 being held for the contracts we have in place. The remaining $95,000 is due to those that was budgeted in travel and has not been spent, or for conferences and workshops that was budgeted but was not spent. Because they were not able to be encumbered and carry over, we're requesting the remaining balance to be carried forward for fiscal 27 use. Any questions on this? Administration fully, respectively recommends the Budget and Finance Committee the approval of the Budget Realignment number 3 and the carryover of $95,977.13 for the Military Lease Land Initiative. Before we conclude, I'd like to note one administrative item. Following the distribution of today's agenda packet, Fiscal identified a few technical revisions to the supporting table. These include in Attachment 1, update to Table 1, corrections to 2 table classification formula errors, restorations of omitted line in attachment 3, table 2, and then to add a new reconciliation table to improve transparency of the core operating budget adjustments. These revisions do not change the recommendation or the requested board action presented today, and an updated set of these attachments will be distributed following today's meeting for the official records. This concludes our presentation, and Duran and I are happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo, I have a few questions. I'll go through the questions and then if we can go into detail per question. Sure. My questions are regarding the key adjustments that include the reallocating $10,000 to the Disaster Assistance Program to support recovery efforts following the March 2026 Honolulu storms, the reallocating $44,000 from insurance savings to fund OHA-related litigation costs, the communications media contract and current Washington, D.C.-based advocacy services obligated in the FY 2026 through purchase orders, so forth, and regarding bad debt expense. So starting with the first one, could you please provide more detail in terms of the reallocating the $10,000 regarding the supporting recovery efforts?
Yes, regarding that line item, when we opened the Wailua Courthouse hub, we wanted to, we initially like to track the cost of us supporting that initiative. In addition to the grant awards, we wanted to track how much of the cost that we're accruing at the Wailua Courthouse. So that is to capture. And then therefore the funds were reallocated from community engagement into that program, $10,000. So it was a budget surplus that went to fund that went to fund that that $10,000.
I want to make sure I have this right. So the $10,000 wasn't necessarily, it was for the location?
It was for the location and purchasing the tents and having the pod, the cost of the repairs, of maintaining.
Okay. And what is it that we do with the tent now? It didn't stay on property?
My understanding that it's in stores and that will be repurposed for likely our community events.
Oh, okay. And the reason I mention that is because a beneficiary of the area did mention that they appreciated the use of the tent during the recovery, and their personal feeling was that that would probably, they would appreciate having that usage to remain there so that community can gather there as appropriate.
I think it's very good feedback. I'll provide that to Lisa as well as for Roy's operations.
Thank you. And regarding the reallocating $44,000 from insurance savings to fund OHA-related litigation costs?
Yes, regarding that, budget adjustments under $50,000, administrations can initiate and requires my review as well as the CFO's approval, Keishawn's COO's approval, and the CEO's approval before I could initiate the adjustment. At that time, there was a budget surplus in Corp Counsel's insurance, and then that he is showing that he needs $44,000 in additional funding to cover litigation costs that was not originally budgeted, but to cover the actual cost that's coming through.
Can you please give details as to what those costs are and when that request came through?
I don't have the actual cost. That's with the Corp Counsel, but I can have Everett get back to you because they don't always provide me with that information. And in terms of the timing, it would have to be between, like I said, these adjustments occurred between April to June.
April to June. So is it just for one set of litigation, or is this multiple?
I'm not too sure. I cannot. I would have to get back to you, ask Everett to get back to you on regarding that question.
Okay. Is this normal to have to fund an OHA-related litigation costs in this manner? How was this recommended?
We budget, like I said, mentioned that we budget at the beginning of the fiscal year and that's a budget, but then as the actual expenses come through, there might be, for example, a reallocation to cover the actual expenses.
So in terms of, say, like a contract or purchase order, that would come through your department? Or it was just assigned to you folks?
So the budget comes, the board sets the budget, and then we start executing. Then as the program starts in executing the projects, they would initiate the purchase through our procurement, which is under fiscal.
Yeah, it will go through the purchase requisition, then it will become a purchase order. It will go through the entire approval process before funds are expended.
Could we have somebody from procurement or Everett come up to give more detail on this, please?
Roselle is here.
Good afternoon, trustees. Trustee Akaka, unfortunately, Everett is currently out of the office on leave, and he is generally the person who works on the budget. Unfortunately, I'm not privy to the budget conversation when it comes to Corp Council's budget, but I'm sure he'll be able to answer your questions when he returns.
When would that be?
Next week, Wednesday, I believe.
Okay. And can somebody from procurement give some detail on this?
I mean, what specific procurement question would you have? Because I think the budget, I don't know if this particular budget item is tied to any particular procurement. I could be wrong. But if you have a specific question, we can direct it to someone in procurement.
Yes, so is it where $44,000 is something that has been spent already or estimated to be spent? And what is it in regards to?
Can I get back to you on that so I can provide a complete response? I'll write that, I'll note it, I'll look on the video, on the YouTube video to note your questions, and then so I can come back with a complete response. Like I said, it's hard for me at the table to answer those questions. Likewise, procurement would encumber the funds, but in terms of payments, that would also look at the fiscal accounts payable to see whether or not it has been used or paid out.
Would it then make sense until that information is able to be provided that we would defer this item as well?
I can, with what we have today, I can see if given what I said earlier, that I was going to send an updated packet at the end of the day today. I can try to get the response to what you're looking for by the end of today, so you can have it in time for tomorrow's meeting, should you decide to approve, to proceed.
Would it not make sense to bifurcate this, or it needs to be as a whole, this?
Should the board decide to bifurcate the adjustment of $44,000, we can also amenable to that.
And then I guess I'll continue with my last two questions, but I'm interested in deferring this so that we can get more detail before we actually approve this.
Of course.
Or not approve this. Regarding the communications media contract and current Washington, D.C. based advocacy service obligated regarding purchase orders and services, could you share on that?
Sure. I think you're referring to page 11 of the action item, if I'm correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What I've seen is that there was a purchase order of $60,000 that was encumbered in the fiscal 26. So the fiscal 26 has $60,000 that was budgeted and allocated to it. What I saw this morning Of the $60,000, a portion has already been spent. I believe the figure's about 30-some thousand, leaving still 20-some thousand remaining of that 60,000. That's relating to the advocacy portion of it.
So this is to pay for advocacy in Washington DC.
Correct.
In the
That's right.
Washington DC area.
That's the policy advocate, because you're asking specifically the Washington DC portion. Also to note, the fiscal 27 budget that was approved last month includes to provide funding of $169,000 for, I have it here. So it was awarded to Akin Grump Strauss Hauer and Feld LLP, PO of $60,000. The balance today is $25,000, which means $35,000 has been spent.
Okay. And then they provide a set of deliverables and so forth.
What is provided in the description, Washington DC-based advocacy to interpret OHA mission programming.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a $16,500 monthly retainer fee.
Thank you. And going back to the previous question, could also the set of deliverables be provided regarding that $44,000 for OHA-related litigation costs? Thank you. And then my last question regarding, it's on attachment number 3, page 6 of a table. Bad debt expense, could you elaborate more on that?
Attachment 3.
What's not gonna happen?
Executive session. What are we gonna try?
If you want deliverables on litigation costs, normally that's going to be something you don't want to do outside of executive session.
For litigation, but if they send like a memo to us in terms of that information, that would provide the deliverables.
It's okay, I can take the question.
In lieu of.
I'll show you.
Yeah. But why can't it be like a one? Like, or even me meeting with them? Maybe I could just meet with them to go over that information so it doesn't have to be sent.
Well, no, those are two different things. Like if you're asking at the table and you want the response at the table, you're going to do it in executive session. If you want to meet separately, you guys go through your normal process of discussing this with the budget chiefs and with them.
Okay, thanks. But on the board table, then executive
Board
session is
table, if you're
recommended.
going to ask about what the deliverables were on with respect to litigation costs, you're going to want to do that in executive session.
And that could be asked at any time, even though it's not agendized.
The things you do outside of the board table, we can talk about it after, but in general, the things you do outside of the board table, you guys go through F, and you guys work on getting the information that way, and that's fine, right, because that's a non-public forum. When you're at the board table, if you're asking that specific question with relation to the deliverables as to legal services, you're going to want that in executive session.
So in bad debts allowances, generally, any debts that are not collectible, we reserve it. It doesn't mean that it's not collectible at all. It's just from accrual accounting perspective, it has to be conservative. So we assume that it will not be collectible. So we just book an entry to hold those funds. You know, it's not cash basis, but it's accrual basis. So it's just accounted for on the books. But it's not a write-off. It's just an allowance. So it is still collectible, but it's doubtful. The other way to say it is a doubtful.
Are there some examples in the past that's been what it's been applied for before?
So can you repeat the question?
Are there some examples that you can share in the past and what that was used for?
So basically, any loans that NARF is distributing, if a portion of it or specifically any loans are not collectible, there's a methodology to reserve. So there could be a specific loan that we know it's not going to be collectible, that would be included. But you also come up with a percentage based on past experience. 1% or 2%, you will conservatively reserve that. So it could be buildup of actual some loans that we know. I can get that detail from NARF. There could be actual loans that we're thinking it might not be collectible, or it could just be an allowance that conservative principle tells us to book it.
Thank you.
Okay, finish. Any other questions? Luana had one, but she's gone. Okay. And is there anything, Trustee Akaka?
I'd like to move that we defer this until we're able to get further details that can be provided, whether through Everett or through a member of procurement.
For the whole action item. Okay. Is there any discussion on deferring it until we get clarification? All right, then can I get a roll call vote on deferring this until? Yes.
If you can allow a 15-minute recess, I'll see what I can find, the answer, so that we can resolve this today.
Okay. We're going to recess for 15. Okay, so, members, we're back in session. There's a motion to defer the entire action item. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, if there's no discussion on the motion to defer, is Kai even on? Okay. So,
Yeah, I'm on, Chair.
okay.
I guess the question I would have, if you don't mind me asking, is just for Grace, from a fiscal standpoint, deferring the proposed budget realignment number 3, what impact would that have, if any, if delayed for a short period of time?
Okay, there are two parts to the action item. Starting with the second part, the carryover for the 95,000, should not be approved today? My understanding is that there are travel plans for travels to in August. That is to the island near Maui. There's a visit plan for that. The military lease land. Kaho'olawe. Correct, thank you very much, Royce. Kaho'olawe travel, that they are initiating travel plans for that. That's my understanding. Right, August. So there's no funding for travel for the military lease in the fiscal 27 budget. So the carryover will allow the travel budget to be used for 27 use. And then therefore the travel plans will not be funded until that is approved. That's the second portion of the action item. The first portion of the action item relating to the realignments is that what I'm seeing, it includes also personnel, my request, and right now, because of we now have actuals, there are actually some insufficient funds of which accounting cannot post and showing negative balances, and I would like to clear that. Though that's just one of the items, but the other items that, like I said, I used this June 30th as a cleanup to reallocate the surpluses to cover the negative funds, and then to prepare our report out of how we did in fiscal year 26.
Okay. So I guess, Chair, so I can understand why is the reason to defer?
I don't know, I guess they wanted information from Everett of some kind.
I don't understand, who wants information, what information?
Trustee Akaka wanted information from Everett on something.
Okay, I think that should be clarified if we're looking to defer the realignment. So if we defer the realignment, is the Military Lease Lands Technical Advisory Group unable to make its huaka'i with the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana to Kaho'olawe? Is that what you're saying?
Chair, I don't think that's her concern.
Okay, but if we defer this realignment, which is also scheduled for final ratification tomorrow, then does that affect the Military Lease Lands trip with the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, Uncle Craig Neff and Daviana McGregor to Kaho'olawe?
We should take a vote.
I want to make sure that I have this correct. So I'm specifically asking for information regarding.
The answer is yes. If we don't realign, then the trip may have to be delayed until it's realigned.
Okay, so regarding the deferral, I'm asking specifically because I had those questions regarding the $44,000 and getting that information. So I want to make sure in terms of, I would like to be advised in terms of how the deferral makes sense, whether perhaps a bifurcation makes sense or a deferral specifically on the wording on how that can be.
I already have the response.
Oh, you have the response?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
I asked for 15 minutes so I can go back and look in the files. So I have the response, if you like me to proceed.
Okay, well, we might not need a deferral then.
Yes. Right on. We don't need.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So I can rescind that then.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also note that this is not final ratification of this, right? Like, there can be an opportunity to research the information or the questions that you have prior to a final board vote to ensure that all trustees have the necessary information. So this is just in committee.
Okay. Yeah, I'll rescind it. Thank you.
Okay.
But yeah, Grace, go ahead. I mean, I'm looking
Thank
forward to hear what you have to say.
Sure. To respond to the first question, Trustee Akaka, is that the adjustment occurred and was approved on May 27th. So it was initiated as early as May 22nd. It's finally approved on May 27th, and then shortly after, I made the budget adjustment to reallocate funds from the budget surplus and insurance to legal services. I have Stephanie here. Everett's away, but I was able to reach out to Stephanie, and she provided information that with the 44,000, as well as the remaining balance in the budget, that they encumbered $74,000 for Denton US LLP.
But what was the 44,000?
So in addition to what they had in their remaining in the Corp Council's legal services budget, they encumbered 74,000. So they used what they had in the budget and took the 44,000 and encumbered, submitted it for procurement to add funds to amend Denton US LLP, 74,000.
So the part in which it says to fund OHA-related litigation costs, what are those litigation costs?
If you'd like me to read the description that they provided to procurement, it is an amendment to contract 3163.04, Denton US LLP, time of performance up from June 20th, 2017 to December 31st, 2030, provide legal advice on labor and employment matters, and represent OHA in legal accident disputes and resolution. That was provided in the procurement.
What entity is that?
Denton, D-E-N-T-O-N.
Denton's?
Correct.
And this is from June 2017?
This is from the time of performance on our contracts. That's typical of our Corp Council, is that the contract initiated on June 20th, 2017, and they continue to fund the contract, and then they, according to and that their contracts are also considered evergreen and that they do not lapse. So that's why they have a long effective date to 2030.
So the amount in terms of litigation costs could have been anywhere between 2017 and this evergreen open timeline.
As the contracts get amended, and if the invoice date is valid during that period, then that PO would be valid.
So are they giving specific details in terms of from 2017 up until current date?
In that,
terms of what
should they submit an invoice having that time of performance, then AP will honor and pay it. Having the PO number.
So how in which do we see that in that detailed invoice of deliverables?
So you would like to, so if I understand correctly, you would like to know, now that they encumbered the 74,000, then how it was used. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't have that information. What I have here is a PO having an order date of July 3rd, which is a couple of weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago, the
July
charges came
3rd
in.
is when the purchase order that I have available in front of me, that it became, that the funds were encumbered, and it became an amendment to the contract having an order date of July 3rd. Whether or not they have paid against this purchase order on invoices between July 3rd and today, I'll have to look in files, and that whether or not has been paid out. Any invoices paid out. But again, since I wasn't prepared for that question, and if you like the answer, I can go back and check with AP whether or not this PO was used against and for what invoices it was paid for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be interested in all those details in terms of what that invoice entails and what exactly it is that we are paying for, and if Denton's, and why that wouldn't be included in this information as well, so that.
The, like I said, the explanation was provided was that budget provided at the beginning of the year was insufficient to cover the actual litigation cost. So the program manager, wherever in this case, was looking for the budget savings within its program in order to reallocate the funds in order to cover the actual expenses.
Oh, which litigation is this?
It's under the Denton LLP vendor.
It's not naming a specific.
In the line description, it's referring to, in the line description there, on this PO, it's referring to legal advice on labor and employment matters and represent OHA in legal actions and dispute resolution. So it's pretty, it's labor law and also broader. And
That really doesn't give much detail. That's so broad, and to then have to pay for that and not have those specific details.
yeah, this is just a purchase order. The invoice, what you're asking.
So we would, if we approve this, we would be saying yes to an invoice that we've never seen before.
This need not, we might not have utilized these services because it goes all the way through 2030. The PO is, it's a longer period than 1 year even, right?
But then it's also saying there's updates as of a couple weeks ago and an amendment as of July 3rd.
Yeah, which is this one.
We have also someone from the Corp Counsel's office.
Thank you.
It is okay that they speak.
Thank you. Kind of tucks herself away.
Hello, my name is Stephanie from Corp Counsel Office. I'm the legal
I'm sorry,
office
can I hear you?
Oh, so sorry. My name is Stephanie from the Corp Counsel Office. I'm the legal office administrator, and I just help Everett monitor some of the budget items. I'm just going to answer some of the questions I remember, but if I skip any of your questions, just please repeat them, and I'll gladly answer them in any way I can. We don't have evergreen contracts anymore. In Corp Counsel Office, we previously had that because of the staffing shortage, because it was just Everett for a while. He was the only full-time employee in Corp Counsel Office. So a lot of the contracts were legacy contracts, and they were continuing for a long time. But at the request of the board, since we have the staffing now, a lot of those contracts were amended to correct the TOP. So now that's why the end date, service end date is December 31st, 2030 for that particular contract for Denton's 3163. And it started in 2017 because it was a pre-existing contract. So we didn't just, start it right now and give it that start date. It was a pre-existing litigation contract, and it covered different cases. So that's why it starts in 2017, and it happens to pay for the Ferrera litigation. That just happens to be the contract that we use to pay that.
Could we please have the details as to what?
It's just, if you want to finish your statement.
Well, before this would be approved, I would be interested in seeing what the deliverables are.
So if we're talking about legal and litigation deliverables, that would have to be an executive session, trustee. Another thing is this is for a budget. So generally we would be putting, this is the contract for Denton's. We generally do have to account for a budget that would account for the many litigation that OHA also is dealing with at the moment, and we have several. So I'm not sure, and again, this is something that Everett and Grace and Stephanie deal with, but I think this particular realignment is for what Grace did say, which is for the Denton's contract for the for litigation. But also just note that we do have something called a self-insured retainer, which means we have to pay our attorneys before the insurance company kicks in.
Yeah.
So OHA is responsible for paying their attorneys in these litigation, in this litigation.
Yeah, part of my wondering is in terms of what you had just mentioned and what is covered versus what is separate and paid. And in you mentioning that, I'm thinking that, is this specifically to cover that, or is it beyond that?
So I want to say that this is specifically for this, and I don't know what you mean by beyond. It does deal.
Is it a service that has not been shared at the table thus far, or is yet to be updated of the board of what the deliverables cover, as we're asked to approve paying for it?
So the deliverables would be general litigation services. That's what Denton's does. So in this litigation, so it would be in the defense of OHA and the Board of Trustees.
However, what I'm asking for is a list of deliverables to entail what those general services have been.
So as our contracts are actually quite general, it does have an sort of a general legal services encompassing any kind of legal services that result in, and I think the language here is legal advice on labor and employment matters and represent OHA in legal actions and dispute resolution. Now, if we're going to talk about specific specific invoicing and actions, those would be privileged because they would actually reveal litigation strategy. So that I would not recommend discussing in open session.
So you recommend that we go into executive session in order to get those details?
I also think that if you're talking about post actions, I mean invoiced actions that have already been done versus a budget, which is again the general services, legal services, then you're talking about two different things, really. Like, I think if you want to examine the past invoices, then that's another subject over versus what Grace is trying to do, which is put money in Corp Council's budget so that we can move forward with legal representation in the litigation.
Well, my concern again is, given that we're asked to reallocate funds and that we're asked to, regarding this 44,000, I would like to have those details so I know what that ask entails.
I mean, I don't have a problem providing those details. However, I'm just not sure if providing past invoices, and this could be up to Grace, or as well as the rest of the board, actually will dictate what goes into the budget in this general description. So the general description is sort of allows Corp Council or allows the contract and the money to be used for general legal services, whereas the invoices will have specific litigation information.
Is there somebody from Denton's that could provide us that information today, given that it's a part of what is being asked? I know they're not named in here. However, if they are the entity being paid for these services, I would like to hear from them.
So we don't have anyone from Denton's here. We weren't expecting an executive session on any litigation issues.
I mean, what's on the agenda is the 44,000
Well,
ask.
you guys can just say no, they can't give you that information now because they're not here.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're not here. So, but respectfully, they're not here. And we would need to go into an executive session for that we're not prepared to do just now.
It wouldn't matter because they're not here.
But then we're not prepared to receive the details of what we're asked to pass today then.
Then we're not prepared to receive the details that you're asking for, and then
and then to then approve something based on not having the information that's being
Would be correct.
asked.
So the details that's required for
Good
this
Lord.
budget, I'm sorry.
Just see, she asked a question, everything she's saying would be true for herself. She's not getting what she wants, so she won't be prepared to pass this budget.
I'll just sit here and answer questions that I'm asked.
Okay, no, then answer the question that she
So just to answer your question, I think that the information regarding this particular budget realignment is what was provided by Grace, which is the general description of what the monies will be used for in the budget, which is the provide legal advice on labor and employment matters and represent OHA in legal actions and dispute resolution. So that is the general information for that particular budget realignment.
How soon could we be provided those details so that this could be agendized again if this were to be deferred?
I have no idea.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify the actual 44,000. It was more general, like it wasn't contract specific. It was line item specific. So it was moved from Corp Counsel's insurance line to legal services line. So anything that we pay with any legal services contract could pull from that 44. So it wasn't contract specific. It was just line item specific. And then it happened to later be used to encumber those funds for contract 3163. That was what it was later used for, but the general movement from was line item specific. It wasn't necessarily, didn't have to necessarily detail the end contract that it would fund.
So that changes the information a little bit, thank you. Because we have multiple litigation cases, so that monies would be used to fund other cases that OHA is dealing with right now too.
However, you said specifically earlier that it regarded the Ferreira case.
That's what it said in the budget. I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm getting like two,
Oh,
three
it was
different
later
sets of
used for.
opinions
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Sorry, that
Varying
was what it was later
opinions.
used for, but that wasn't a requirement when we actually do like the budget adjustment. Like we don't have to say, or it's not required of the PIA to actually say, oh, we're going to use it for this particular contract and to pay this particular bill. It's line item specific, not contract specific or like task specific. So that 44 was just from Corp Counsel insurance line to Corp Counsel legal services. And it's just like that general pot that we get.
No, no, but there's, okay, the motion is to defer it. Where you finished, Clay? Did you rescind it?
But I would like to know what our options are going forward.
Whatever you guys want, I don't know.
Well, right
just-
now,
I just
would,
wanna
I
vote
would
on-
like that information.
We can vote on it, we can amend it, we can ask more questions.
I'm okay with everything
can-
but that specific part.
Wait, Trustee Kahele.
Yeah, Chair, I think what you should do is call for the question and put it to a vote. Your current motion on the table to approve the action item is the current motion. If you want to entertain Trustee Akaka's motion to defer the entire action item, then that's your kuleana. But I also will remind the board that this is still up for final ratification, and the information that Trustee Akaka seeks could be obtained, before that final board vote. And so, in order to not put all the other things in the action item at risk, including the trip to Kaho'olawe for the Military Lease Lands Technical Advisory Group, I would highly suggest moving forward with your motion to approve the action item and then deal with it accordingly.
amendments or whatever. But I mean, okay, the thing is, I think it's obvious. Trustee Akaka wants to know exactly what they're going to use that $44,000 for. And we're not ever going to have that answer by, I mean, if that's something that people need, because I don't think it's committed yet. So, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question that is being asked, Chair, is, we have numerous legal firms that provide services for OHA. Number of firms. We have contracts that in some cases have existed with no end dates for perpetuity. We are working on changing that. But within these contracts, you have purchase orders and you have an available amount of funds that General Counsel has been delegated the authority to utilize to help OHA in litigation matters. That is simply what this is. It's not any more cosmic than that.
Well, if there's no further discussion, can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Ahuna. Oh, I dropped off. He's there. Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galataria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
I'm gonna vote A'ole.
Trustee Kahele.
Your message.
Aye, sorry about that.
Nope.
Can you hear me? I'm having
Yes. Yep. Got you.
connection issues.
I got you. Yes. Thank you. Trustee Lindsay. Oh, yep. Trustee Ahuna. Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Chair Waihe'e. Trustee Akaka.
A'ole.
7 yes, 1 no, and 1 excused.
Okay, the motion passes. Members, can I get a motion? That's it. Motion to adjourn. Okay, roll call vote. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna.
Yeah.
Mahalo. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina is excused. Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galataria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Chair Waihe'e.
Yes,
8 yes votes.
we're adjourned.
Quick announcement, Mr. Chair, Island Committee meeting will reconvene. It's 3:20. 3:20. My staff is gonna hate me, but 3:20. If we need the extra couple minutes.